Jeffrey is a racist. For some reason, he just hates people who believes in God. Now, of course, there's some normal atheists, but Jeffrey is a hater. He spends his time on Reddit and in the YouTube comment section swearing at people. God doesn't exist. Come on, Jeffrey. People are entitled to their own beliefs. Adonis. When you think of Adonis, what kind of man do you think he would be? Would he be a Reddit atheist? Or would he be a godly man? Wouldn't a man like Adonis raise his children in a way to fear God? Wouldn't he prefer to have a woman whose whole community believes in God and follows a structured system to live their lives by? Adonis is a man of values and he gets that from his religion. I hated being brown-skinned. I hated identifying as a Muslim. I was born in Pakistan and we moved to the UK when I was just a few years old and my parents raised me to be a Muslim. And by the time I got a few years old and 9/11 had happened, all I saw on the TV was issues with brown people. As a young child, it became confirmed in my mind that being brown was a bad thing. Being Muslim meant that I was a terrorist. It was a source of ridicule and bullying in school. Till eventually I started adopting more of this like white British culture, but I never really fit in with the people here. I made jokes about my own race and my own religion, and I was like the self-deprecating little Pakistani guy who was like making racist jokes about brown people and everything and like calling myself a terrorist just to try and make the white boys laugh. When I look back now, like, it's cringe and it's kind of annoying when I think of that little shit version of me. But I also just see like this young boy who was so pressured by the society and the media around him that convinced him that being brown was a bad thing, that being religious was a bad thing, that being Muslim meant that you're a terrorist. And that's all I saw every single day on the TV, every single day hearing the news and everything that, okay, brown people are bad and Muslims are terrorists. And so of course I didn't want to identify with that. When there would be like some kind of terrorist attack, I would literally personally feel shame and I would really want to deviate away from those people and act extra white next to my friends. I abandoned my race, my religion, my faith, my God, and I indulged in the pleasures of the West, the degeneracy that's available here. There's those temptations, whether you're a religious man or not, there's those temptations that you will have, those desires, promiscuity of fucking these girls here, of watching porn, taking drugs, of partying and drinking alcohol, enjoying yourself. I did all of that and you can literally see my journey through these hundreds of videos that I've made. You can see that this is real, that I indulged in that lifestyle. We have hundreds of videos of me in parties, hooking up with girls. I enjoyed that lifestyle, all that the godless West has to offer. And here I am today in front of you saying, it wasn't that great. Why is it that you see men like Andrew Tate, who again has experienced like all that the West has to offer, all these hedonistic pleasures, convert into Islam? Because once you've fulfilled all of these primal desires of yours, you're left with this spiritual numbness, this emptiness, but then also this paranoia, this fear of what may arise when you are a godless man. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking this is weird and wait, why is Hamza preaching religion to us? I don't want you to feel like you're not welcome to much. I'm not religious, not yet. I've been atheist for literally most of my life. And only just in the last few months have I realized like something has got to change. Now, Tate has recently just come out and said that he's Muslim and he's a man that I respect. I hope that this video doesn't seem like I'm just imitating him or copying him because this is a major life decision that we're talking about. But he's a man that I respect, and when he's gave the arguments for and against believing in God, for and against being religious, it makes total sense to me. There was something that I realized a while ago. I've been reading the book Sapiens. It's like a very famous book, you might have heard of it. It's kind of like the history of how our species as, like humans, as like sapiens have developed. And it goes on to say that one of our most important developments was how advanced our brain got to the point that we could start to think of things that aren't exactly right in front of us. We can imagine, just think about that, we can literally imagine things, we can fantasize about things, we can think of something that is not in front of us right now and share that story to our fellow man, and that's what causes us to unite. Because before we had this advanced brain, we were Neanderthals, just bashing each other with rocks, and as soon as our consciousness got to that level where we could believe in something bigger than us, we joined together to say, there's such a thing called God, and maybe if we follow what he says and be good people, we'll prosper, and if we delay gratification, we'll get into heaven. Now, if you've watched a bunch of my videos, what is the most important concept of self-improvement that I ever talk about? Instant gratification versus delayed gratification. The ultimate delayed gratification is the promise of heaven. Be good in this life for a better afterlife. I teach you nothing original whatsoever. Everything that I say comes from religion. Be a good person, be kind, be generous, meditate, be grateful, be a strong person, have a family, reject degeneracy and hedonism. But I realized a while ago when I was reading this book, Sapiens, that, we have this advanced brain that we can believe in things. It made me realize that as a human being, because of the capability of our advanced brain, we are always going to worship something. I'm gonna say this again. You are always worshipping something. If you're an atheist, which I am, so I'm not being hateful or anything, but I am too. But if you're an atheist and you don't believe in God, you're still worshipping something. You still have some kind of God, okay? It's not a religious God. It's not the God from the Bible. It's not Allah. But you still worship something. You know, I carry this concept. I hope this makes sense. I carry this concept in my mind, okay? You're always worshipping something. Religious people worship a God and a holy book. Atheists, what do they worship? What do atheists scream and go crazy about? What do people in like this godless country, I'm in the UK, what do people worship here? Rappers, gang members. If you're uncertain about that, you can search on YouTube right now, search for some rapper and write concert at the end of it. And you will see all these people crazy, oh my God, oh, that's the guy, oh, I listen to. He is their God. When you live in a godless country, you're still being given people to worship. Now the issue is the person that you're worshipping isn't this holy, almighty power. It's not like this force of good. It's this random fucking thug degenerate who's got women twerking in his music video and he's talking about stabbing people and taking drugs. And maybe you've known this already because I've kind of known this for a while. So what's the new revelation that I've had? Well, I am quite certain that this is how these countries will fall. Once you start to open your eyes to this possibility that the country that we are in doesn't always have to stay safe. There's countries out there right now that are in a middle of a war. Now, I've lived in the UK, and maybe you're in the UK or some country in the West, which seems relatively safe. We've never had a war in our lifetimes on our own soil. The thought of being dominated by a different country, if you live in the UK or the US, it seems no, that wouldn't happen because, yeah, the America's really, really strong. Is it? Because the people here are weak. There's no doubt about that whatsoever. The people here are weak. The people in the West are weak. There's no families. There's no reasons for a man to be strong anymore because there's no families. There's no, like, I hate this term, there's no good women. All the women have fallen prey to like the evil propaganda telling them to devalue themselves. Religion tells women to value themselves so highly and tells men to value women so highly that you keep them in this almost this state of like semi-worship. And the godless West tells women to degrade themselves to the point that they literally lose their value because it tells them that purity is not an important thing. Every single man, if he is totally just, you know, you could be watching this disagreeing with me right now. You could be some male feminist. If you just stay silent, don't ever speak about this to anyone else. But if you just see how you feel at the thought of a woman being godless and sleeping around and enjoying the hedonism of the West. If you think of your future wife getting dicked down by chads and she matched with this guy on Tinder, it gives you this gut feeling of pain. Inside of every single man is this gut feeling of pain that a godless woman, it's not right, it's not attractive, it's not what we want. But outside, because of this propaganda, because of this pressure, that I have this fear of being cancelled by speaking about this right now. Oh, you go girl. Oh, don't be sexist, don't be misogynist. Piers Morgan saying this to Andrew Tate, like, oh, that's misogynist. Tate just said this in a recent podcast of his, that Islam is a cure for degeneracy. I can't think of any other better cure. I honestly can't. I was so certain for all of my life that I would, you know, it was never something that important to me, but it was like kind of certain, yeah, I'd be an atheist for the rest of my life. Like, I don't believe in God, right? Maybe you've seen over the last like 1 year or so that I've really started to consider this more and more, to the point now that I'm literally reading the Quran. My mom used to make me read that when I was a child, and, you know, I never really wanted to. I always like struggled or whatever. And now I've actively started reading it by my own accord. And I called my mom 2 days ago and told her, and I just saw like the biggest smile on her face when I told her that I started reading, you know, our holy book. And she just got like so happy. She told me it was the right thing. She told me that this, you know, this was the way forward. Right here, right now, you either fully believe me, you agree with me, and you're like, yeah, this is amazing. Hamza might turn Muslim, you know, he'll be one of our brothers. That's amazing. And that's awesome. But maybe you're watching this right now and you're just feeling weird and thinking, okay, this guy is preaching to us. Like, I don't care about religion. Religion's not important. Trust me when I say I felt exactly the same way for all of my life. Maybe you're not there just yet, but there will be a point as you keep advancing in your self-improvement, especially when you start looking into like the wider scale of things. You start really investigating why countries rise and fall. You start investigating the kind of country that you want to raise your children, and then you start to realize that countries that eventually give up their culture, their values, and their religion end up getting fucking decimated by another country that's kept their hardcore values. There are no nuclear families here. There's no reason for a man to be strong in this country. And so we see that every man here is weak. I'm talking about the UK, but you know what's interesting? Where are the strong British men? In Spain, in Dubai. The most successful, most wealthy, the hardest working guys here in the West, they make their money and then they go to a different country. So these countries can't even retain like the strong men who would have kept societies like this balanced. The strong men of these countries don't even want to stay here. If you ask these people right here, right now, would they fight for this country? They'd look at you weird. They would literally look at you with ketamine around their nose right now, looking at you like, oh, what are you talking about? Oh, just pass us the packet, lad. What are you talking about? Let's go to the pub, lad. I'm just having a wank. If you feel safe right here, right now, in these countries, I am sure that you have not opened your eyes to the brutal truth, the brutal facts that are happening around the world. I made a video which was my most uncensored, most brutal, most important video yet. It's titled TikTok is Worse Than You Thought. If you haven't seen that already, I highly suggest you watch all of that. It's not like a normal anti-social media video. I really show you the research that shows that TikTok is the greatest weapon of war that we've ever experienced. TikTok is literally more deadlier than any nuclear weapon that we've ever devised. Once you look at the research of that and you see the country behind that, and you see that countries right here, right now are preparing for war whilst your country celebrates degeneracy. It celebrates removing men from the household. It literally actively it actively forces fathers out of the household, which means that children, maybe like yourself, are raised by single mothers, becoming weak, lacking values. And you do realize that there's such a thing called drafts. You do realize that there is a possibility that you may be forced to fight for your country, and you probably don't even see it as your country. The first thing people in this country do when they make money is they leave. There's two music videos that I've watched recently. I don't watch this kind of bullshit content, but there was two that my friend Sam kind of told me to watch. One of them, you can go and have a look right now. It's called Messy in Heaven. And it's made by like some random girl who's she's saying that Jesus took cocaine. Like, you know, it's some fucking degenerate shit. It just shows her and her friends like enjoying themselves, drinking, taking drugs, out in parties. Bro, when I tell you right now that that music video is such an accurate depiction of a night out in British culture, where these people will come in early, start drinking, then go out and start smoking in the middle of the rave, and they're all fucked up and stuff. This is what the people are doing here. That's like what godless young people do. And then there was another video that Sam showed me. It was like some random rapper. Just, you know, like some American rapper with like a bunch of like jewelry on and everything. He's got like girls twerking around him and everything. You know, it's just a stereotypical like rap song. If that guy walked through the street and people knew he was there, he would be bombarded. All of his worshippers would go and like kneel before him. Some random rapper. When they do concerts, people literally kneel before them and like girls throw their... Is that your future wife? Throw in her bra to this rapper. Is that going to be your future wife in this country? Oh, but I just like going to concerts to dance with my girls. Some random rapper has your future wife's bra. If you've read the book Hard Times Create Strong Men, you're already panicking at this global state of affairs. And if you've not read that book right now, maybe your eyes are still closed and maybe you think that I'm some weirdo. All those guys who don't understand this concept have probably clicked off the video and thinking, yeah, but Hamza's gone crazy, whatever. If you haven't already, the book Hard Times Create Strong Men by Stefan Ernio is a 10 out of 10 must read, and you must start reading it now. If there's one thing I can command you to do, if you have any like level of like adherence to what I say, if there's one thing I can make you do, go find the book Hard Times Create Strong Men and start reading it right now. As you start reading it, you will panic. You will literally start to fear for the physical safety of your family. You will start to think, okay, fuck, I need to make more money and get my family out of this country fast. It's been written in books of the exact pattern that we're going through. A guy who wrote this book, who mysteriously died after writing it, predicted exactly what's happening. And he mentioned a term which I've spoke about in a previous video called subversion. Subversion is when you destroy a country's cultures and values so that it becomes weak from the inside. And you do this before you even go to war with them. So eventually when you're going to war, you're gonna go fight some guy who's on day 0 of NoFap. You're gonna go fight some guy who doesn't even have a family to fight for. I've said this so many times, bro. Imagine these countries going to war with a country who still values family and religion. Imagine an atheist. Boy, 300 nanograms of test. I can't even say, take that bit out because YouTube will fucking cancel me if I use a word like oh, I got cancelled on Skillshare for talking about the death of masculinity in these countries. When you destroy masculinity in the young men of your... Why? It doesn't make fucking sense when you think about it. Why are these countries destroying their own men's masculinity? Because they live in a state of fucking comfort and they think that now this is troubling, this is toxic. You see our videos of helping young men rise up and cure their addictions to porn and social media and to junk food. We are seen as toxic by our own countries. We are trying to become strong so that we may protect our own countries, and they literally see us as toxic and they want to silence us. Every video that I record these days, bro, I don't even know which one's gonna get me totally silenced. 2 years of hard work, employees who rely on the income that we make, and I don't even know which random video I make is just totally gonna remove everything. How crazy is that? YouTube is a Western company. I think it's like a US company. And it sees content from guys who are trying to make these countries stronger. And it will literally silence you. We've got to the state of affairs where companies and people and leaders in these like Western godless countries aren't even supporting their own country. And so of course, when you see a strong, successful man being silenced, being hated on, being called toxic, where do you see them all go? They don't stay in these fucking countries anymore. You see Tate just move over. Like, you know, he was started in UK, then he moved over to Romania, then he's moved to Dubai. I'm going to Dubai. You see Iman move to Dubai. Bro, everyone's moving east. Every smart, rich person is moving east. And literally, they're all moving to a Muslim country. Why? Think about that. These guys are probably your role models. All of your role models are moving to a Muslim country. And all of the broke guys are still going out to the pub. And you see them like lying down on the floor, on like, you know, the gritty, dirty floor at the end of a night out. Like, oh, I'm so fucked, lad. Oh, I had too many Jaeger bombs, lad. You know, there's countries, because of religion, that totally inhibit, especially the sexual, just freedom, but just the sexual freedom of their young people. Islam restricts that. Islam restricts the sexual freedom of the young people there. You only get to have sex and you only get to experience the opposite sex once you're about to get married, and guess what happens then? A young Muslim guy and a young Muslim girl, since they're restricted from being able to, date or have sex or anything, they're focused on being productive, good citizens. In an enforced Islamic country, people go through the school system focused on their studies, and so they produce some top-level doctors and engineers, and their country gets stronger. Here, what happens through the school system here? If you're in the UK or the US, what happens during school? Sure, there might be some nerds who are focused. Even then, think about it. Those people are demonized. Like, the person who's actually focused in school is demonized and called a nerd. Like, I just call this guy a nerd, bro. But for the majority of people in the school system, the new generation of workers who are supposed to defend the country, they're too busy thinking, oh, has she replied? Oh, he just fucked me and now he's not replying anymore. Think about how much of their brain power is being taken away by the openness of the sexual revolution here, bro. Kids are having sex at age 13 here. Do you really think they're focused on their studies? Do you really think this country is going to produce the best workers that it could do? I've had the chance to invest money. This company's making a good amount of money, and I try and reinvest as much of it as possible back into the business. But it's got to the point now where our income's pretty high, and it's time for me to try and invest into other companies or the crypto, stocks and stuff. And the conventional advice that I've always heard is, invest in the S&P 500. And it would probably be a good investment. Guess why I've not invested in those index funds? Guess why I've not invested in those American companies? You can call me crazy, but I don't think they will stand in another 20 years from now. I don't think that the top US companies will either exist or will still be registered as US companies 20 years from now. All these people who are still trying to invest into the West as it fucking degrades. It makes no sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense. You can see the degradation of all elements of a godless Western society. Inflation, mental health, suicide, gang war. Someone's getting stabbed every single day in London. Tate says this, and I thought it was over dramatic. I kind of knew the brutal facts of how unsafe it is here. But when you if you really want to fucking give yourself anxiety and see how fucked this country is, just go onto Google and just search London stabbing. He was totally right. If you do this, you'll ruin your fucking day. I don't know if I sound crazy and everyone's gonna think, oh, Hamza's lost it now. But once you start looking into this and you look into this concept of these countries are falling because of the degradation of strong masculine virtues, and they're becoming more feminine, more emotional, they're becoming more politically correct, which is weakness. And you start to think, okay, well, every part of society is getting worse with this. And then you see the rise of strong countries that are still enforcing hard fucking disciplined rules. We always thought China was crazy. You always used to hear, oh, China's they've banned social media and they've done this and they've done this. We thought, oh yeah, they're so crazy. Why don't they just allow people to go onto Facebook? This is why. They don't want Western degeneracy to infiltrate their culture there. I don't even think it's enough to just have good values and be a good Muslim in this country. I really don't, because I see... This might get me fucking hated by the Muslim community, but bro, honestly, a lot of Muslims in these countries are not even Muslims. They're just fakers. A lot of the girls who have been raised by good Muslim parents eventually get so fucking brainwashed by their friends and the school system and by TikTok and stuff that they turn into sluts. They won't have sex, but they will suck dick, and it seems fucking vulgar. I promise you that this shit's happening. And 100% this sounds contradictive coming from someone who's indulged in the degeneracy here. Yo, this is the case with me experiencing these things, fucking around, enjoying the drug culture, the party culture here, and then transforming and telling you don't do it. And you can say to yourself, wait, but this guy's done it, so how is he telling me not to do it? Well, the only way that I could tell you not to do these things, for example, to not continue playing video games, to maybe reconsider being an atheist, maybe don't take drugs, and maybe don't be so sex obsessed with the women here, because I've done them myself and I'm speaking from experience. How interesting is that you are seeing the rise of strong men who are from Western countries, who have indulged in every pleasure that the degenerate Western world has to offer, and you are seeing these men take a big step away from the Western world and telling you it's not even that great. You're literally seeing guys who've indulged in everything and they're telling you that it's not that great. Now I'll speak directly to the Muslims who are watching this, the young Muslims who might have some kinds of temptation right now. I can empathize with you, especially if you live in countries like this and all you're seeing is just ass every day. Ass on TikTok, ass on social media. Your school teacher's a stripper because that's, oh, well, sex workers. Your school teacher's got a fucking OnlyFans these days. Oh, but we've got to support sex workers. As a young Muslim man, you're being sold sex and the temptation will keep increasing. Hopefully you can see a man like me, maybe a man like Tate, and just think these guys have indulged in that and they're literally still telling you that it's not worth pursuing. I've started reading the Quran and maybe you should too. Click and watch this video right now, do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Mwah.